On a fateful night beneath a full moon, the royal palace welcomed a new heir. The household waited anxiously outside the birthing chamber, eager to learn whether the child was a prince or a princess. Their joy did not last. The newborn was found with hair and eyes as dark as the night itself, a trait the kingdom had long feared as the mark of a curse upon their lands. Years passed, and that child grew into the shadow of the royal family during a grand ball. Leerburg Louvel, first prince of Louvel. Charlotte, Duchess of Mersenne, could only stare in disbelief. She had no warning of what was coming, and the accusation left her utterly stunned before the entire court. She insisted she had no idea what she had done wrong, while Lear pressed her, asking if she truly did not understand the reason behind his decision. Lear then presented Lucille, a commoner classmate of his, and accused Charlotte of tormenting her through slander, intimidation, and even pushing her down a flight of stairs. Before Charlotte could defend herself, guards seized her and locked a criminal's collar around her wrists, the very restraint reserved for the condemned. Charlotte cried out that the accusation made no sense, insisting there had been a grave error, but the nobles around her only watched in silence. Lear offered her a cold mercy, telling her that as her former betrothed, he would allow her the chance to apologize to Lucille directly. In the middle of the tense hall, laughter suddenly broke out. Charlotte began laughing uncontrollably, the sound echoing through the stunned crowd. Alfred Berg Louville, the third prince, stepped forward with a faint smile, remarking that events had unfolded exactly as he expected, and he could not resist his amusement. The nobles whispered among themselves, recognizing him at once as the cursed child born with black hair and black eyes. A nobleman pointed him out to Lucille, naming him plainly as Alfred Berg Louville, third prince of the Louville kingdom. Alfred's calm expression twisted into something darker, as he recalled Lucille, muttering that the commoner had always vexed him for forgetting her place. Whispers spread quickly through the crowd, with nobles suggesting it was Alfred, not Charlotte, who had framed the kind-hearted Duchess and mistreated Lucille all along. Lear turned on his younger brother, declaring he would never forgive him for what had been done to Lucille. Alfred remained composed, pointing out calmly that no one held any real proof that he had done anything at all. He added that he had never confessed to wrongdoing, only admitted to enjoying how the situation had played out, provoking Lear's fury further. Lear accused him of being skilled at covering his tracks, and Alfred silently agreed that his talent for scheming was real, though unnecessary this time. With a quiet, knowing smile, Alfred reflected that any evidence of misdeed on his part had simply never existed in the first place. The gathering had been arranged to celebrate Leo entering his third year of high school. Alfred noted that, as a royal, he should have been informed if the event was meant to announce the termination of an engagement. Charlotte approached Leor and addressed him directly, stating that if his heart no longer belonged to her, she would accept it and step aside gracefully. Leor snapped back that she was not thinking rationally. Charlotte reminded him that their engagement was never a simple verbal promise. It had been formalized between the royal family and the ducal house. Lear declared he would cast aside such outdated traditions, insisting that he and Lucille shared a bond of true love. With Leo holding the full authority of the crown in their father's absence, no one, not even the Mersenne family, could challenge him. Charlotte now stood completely alone. Alfred stepped in, asking his brother calmly what he intended to do next, whether he planned to detain him for a crime that was never proven. Lear's fury boiled over as he called Alfred wretched, vowing to inflict pain to teach him a lesson. Guards rushed forward at Lear's command to seize him, but Alfred moved first, slipping past their grasp with a sharp whoosh. He leapt toward the chandelier above, using it to swing clear of the soldiers closing in from both sides. The guards panicked, asking what was happening and why Leor did not simply use his magic and spears to stop him. Leor cursed under his breath. Leor's men reminded him that injuring anyone at the party, with esteemed guests present, would become a grave problem for the royal family. Leor ordered the balcony secured and commanded his men not to let Alfred escape the area. While the chaos unfolded, Charlotte quietly slipped away unnoticed, making her escape from the hall. Alfred, still swinging from the chandelier, noted with relief that she was likely spared from public humiliation for now. An explosion tore through the chandelier as the guards attacked, sending shards scattering, but Alfred used the blast to propel himself further away. Lear snarled, calling him a little rascal as Alfred vaulted across the balcony railing with ease. Alfred decided it was best to retreat, murmuring that his brother had clearly lost his senses. With a faint glow surrounding him, he announced it was about time he took his leave, catching a glimpse of something sparkling below. Lear, holding Lucille close, called him his dear brother and coldly wished him the best. Another blast shattered the wall behind him as guards asked whether they should pursue. Leor watched in silence as Alfred floated away into the night. Leor ordered his men to clean up the ruined hall and escort the fleeing guest to safety, brushing off further pursuit since he already knew where Alfred was headed. Leor's expression darkened as he muttered his brother's name under clenched teeth, unable to shake his frustration over what had just happened. Under the night sky, footsteps echoed across the castle rooftops as Alfred made his way through the shadows of Windsor's towers. Landing safely atop a stone ledge, he remarked to himself that he had successfully evaded the guards chasing him. A maid named Makaina appeared, clapping enthusiastically and praising the chaos he had caused, calling his performance as the villain truly magnificent and flawless. Alfred accused her of merely wanting to slack off, but she insisted she was a highly capable maid who had positioned herself in advance to support her master's escape from the venue. He asked how Charlotte was faring. Makaina replied that a guard had been assigned to watch over her, and since no troubling reports had come in, she was likely safe. As they walked through the quiet streets, Makaina teased him, saying that despite everything, it had turned out well for him. She squealed, gushing that he had just rescued his first love like a true knight in shining armor. Alfred struck her lightly on the head in response, muttering her name in exasperation, while she simply blinked back at him with mock innocence. Makaina pressed further, asking how far back into his past she needed to dig, reminding him of the time Charlotte became engaged to Leor, and he had chosen to let her go. She marveled that despite everything, he had truly gone through with it tonight, calling it a huge turn of events. Makaina suggested casually that he could simply take Charlotte for himself, instead of continuing to hold back, flustered. Alfred insisted he was heading straight back to his room and told her to do the same, while she dashed off giggling, bidding him good night. Alone again, he rested his hand against the stone wall, quietly repeating the words first love to himself. He stood still in the empty alley, insisting under his breath that it was nothing like that at all. Morning arrived over the castle, birds chirping softly as sunlight spread across its towers. Back in his room, Alfred sat on the couch, muttering in disbelief that after causing chaos at the school year party, he had also ended up wrecking part of the palace. He scratched his head, reasoning to himself that such an outcome had been unavoidable given the circumstances. Just then, the king's familiar, a magical pigeon used for remote communication, landed nearby, cooing softly as a message from his father awaited. Alfred explained to his father that spreading the rumor of Charlotte being framed by the third prince served a purpose. Without those measures, he had no idea what fate might have awaited her. The king's pigeon tilted its head and admitted, however reluctantly, that it had to give Alfred credit for saving Charlotte. The bird pecked at him repeatedly, scolding him for insisting on tarnishing his own reputation as the villainous third prince. Alfred shrugged it off, saying it was far too late to start worrying about bad press, since he had always been branded the cursed child anyway. Out of nowhere, the pigeon announced cheerfully that he should rejoice, for a marriage partner had already been arranged for him. Alfred froze in confusion. He demanded to know if this was some cruel joke. A marriage proposal for the so-called cursed child. The bird assured him it was no joke at all. His father added that, after the recent incident, he had learned Alfred needed closer supervision, prompting Alfred to ask what exactly he meant by that remark. The king continued, revealing he had personally reached out to the other party who had willingly agreed to the match. Alfred could barely process who would possibly consent to such an arrangement. Just then, Makaina burst in cheerfully, announcing that Alfred's fiancé had arrived. Alfred praised her sarcastically for her fine work, though he was clearly caught off guard, realizing Makaina had known about this all along. A young woman stepped forward gracefully through the doorway, excusing herself as she entered the room. Alfred's eyes widened in shock as he recognized her, exclaiming Charlotte's name in disbelief. His father remarked knowingly that he seemed to have taken quite a fancy to her. Alfred rounded on the pigeon furiously, grabbing at it while demanding to know what his father's real endgame was. His father explained calmly that the rumor of Charlotte framing Lucille had already been buried under a new falsehood, one claiming Charlotte was instead framed by the third prince. Alfred pointed out that nothing could undo the fact that the first prince had terminated the engagement in public. His father countered that the mishandling of the affair fell squarely on the royal family, and since Charlotte was someone they would be glad to welcome into the royal lineage. The king stated there were 4 key reasons behind this decision, prompting Alfred to ask sharply whether his father had finally lost his mind, and why it specifically had to be him. Charlotte interjected, listing the reasons herself. He was one of the few eligible men still available. It would fulfill her own wishes, and if it truly was her, she would be able to keep him in check. Alfred asked what she meant by a rumor, and she admitted it was indeed just that. A rumor, before adding that the final reason remained. Makaina peeked in from the side, explaining bluntly that there was a rumor circulating throughout the academy concerning him. According to the rumor, Alfred had secretly harbored feelings for Charlotte from the very beginning and had orchestrated an elaborate plan to win her away from the first prince. Makaina finished with a dramatic flourish, declaring that in essence, Alfred had been stealing his own brother's girl all along. Rumors swept through the castle grounds, whispers accusing Alfred of stealing his own brother's fiancé. Alfred paused mid-conversation, caught off guard by the question thrown at him again. His maids, Makaina and another attendant, giggled, insisting the rumor was simply the natural course of the story, with Alfred supposedly stealing Charlotte from Liar. Alfred admitted that ever since the incident, he had avoided his brother, entirely skipping school and locking himself away, unintentionally letting the rumors spread unchecked. Makaina cheerfully confirmed his negligence had fueled the gossip, then casually mentioned that Lior himself was the one spreading it. Alfred froze, stunned. Makaina reenacted Lior's furious rant, claiming Alfred had mistreated Lucille purely out of desire for Charlotte. Alfred stood in disbelief as his bird companion mimicked hearing the same accusation over and over, exhausted by its repetition. Alfred questioned why they were even entertaining Lior's flawed reasoning, but the bird pointed out that Alfred's own logic wasn't much better, then suggested turning the rumor to their advantage by making the engagement real. Alfred admitted he couldn't refute the premise, and if they went along with it, the story could be framed as Charlotte being the innocent victim of the villainous third prince. The bird pressed further, noting that people would stop blaming Charlotte and instead pity her, casting her as a true damsel in distress. Meanwhile, Charlotte and her sister discussed calmly, questioning what their father was planning by pairing her with someone dismissed as the cursed child, someone who had finally been cleared of blame. Their father declared it would remain a burden Charlotte carried for life. Alfred, having overheard everything, cursed under his breath, realizing this was the caller being spoken of, and refused the notion outright, though his bird insisted he simply play the given role, leaving him trapped. Elsewhere, Alfred reflected inwardly, recalling that magic in this world was divided among 4 elements: fire, water, earth, and wind royalty. However, were exceptions to this rule, gifted with power tied not to circumstance but to inherent nature. A 5th element, radiant and golden, known as ether, marked true royal bloodlines apart from everyone else. Yet what dwelled within Alfred was neither ordinary magic nor ether. It was something else entirely, the 6th element. This power mirrored the same force once wielded by the Witch of the Night, the being who had plunged the world into darkness centuries ago. A force that had symbolized ruin since ancient times, feared across generations. Because of it, Alfred had grown up shunned, whispered about at every gathering, isolated since childhood. Such had been his existence. Until this very moment, fists clenched, Alfred reasoned that embracing the villain's role meant if the king backed him, his father's reputation would suffer alongside his own. The bird corrected him sharply, insisting no such role had ever been assigned, mocking Alfred's outburst as foolish. Alfred turned the conversation towards Charlotte, questioning whether she was truly at peace with the engagement, given her unique standing among the ducal houses tied to the royal family. Charlotte's power came closest to the royal 5th element, ether, manifesting instead as something called silver mana, born from an immense reserve of magic. Though she lacked royal blood, her mastery over that power was unmatched in history, making her arguably the most qualified person to support the royal family. The bird pointed out that after her public display, her father could hardly afford to let such an asset slip away. Alfred admitted that with any other man he might have hesitated to accept the arrangement. Charlotte, smiling faintly, said that if it were Alfred, she was completely fine with it. Alfred recalled the moment clearly, the memory of Charlotte returning to him. At a party where everyone else feared his curse, she alone approached him without hesitation or concern. Because of that memory, he understood her trust in him ran genuine and deep. Makaina called out to him twice before he snapped out of his thoughts, cursing himself for missing something so obvious. The maid warned that fleeing now would bring disgrace upon Charlotte, and Alfred admitted responsibility for causing the commotion in the first place. He declared he had no intention of abandoning his role, but made clear he would accept the engagement regardless. Whether or not he had a fiancé changed nothing, he said, simply intending to carry on as he always had. Charlotte wondered aloud if Alfred secretly disliked her, and Makaina reassured her that his reaction stemmed from concern and his own inner conflict rather than dislike. Charlotte asked Makaina, who had served the longest among Alfred's subordinates, to explain him better. She asked earnestly if Makaina could share more about who Alfred truly was. Charlotte admitted she genuinely wanted to understand him properly. Makaina grinned, declaring herself the perfect source of answers, ready to reveal everything about Alfred as the story continued. Charlotte Mersenne, a youthful noble girl, held a cherished picture book during a garden reception at the castle. Nearby, Leorberg Louvel appeared, his presence attracting attention as he turned toward her with slight interest. Charlotte neared him, expressing gratitude through her gestures while presenting the book she obtained. Leor observed her joy and felt a short sense of contentment. Her optimistic thoughts about peace lingered, leaving Leor quietly pondering. Charlotte announced her dream of becoming queen and creating a peaceful nation, holding the book tightly with bright resolve. Leor replied with doubt, showing a detached expression as he weighed reality. He reasoned that such hopes frequently remain ideals, questioning the result of such thinking. Shortly after, he left, while Charlotte stayed behind, unsettled as her belief began to weaken. Remaining alone, she stared at the book, wondering if her ambitions would simply be discarded. Charlotte decided to abandon childish hobbies, convincing herself that becoming a proper queen required leaving such matters behind. While walking away, she was suddenly halted, her thoughts interrupted by an unforeseen presence. A youthful boy stood before her, holding the abandoned book, quietly returning what she had attempted to leave. His modest action caused her to pause, reconsidering her previous decision. Remorse surfaced as she apologized, while the child's quiet curiosity remained. Charlotte insisted on abandoning diversions, believing her path to becoming queen demanded rigid focus. Abruptly, she was caught off guard as the child accurately understood her logic. He steadily presented a different perspective, suggesting that without trying, nothing would ever improve. His remarks reminded her of the tale she once admired, shaking her confidence. As he returned the book, his discreet encouragement remained, leaving Charlotte reconsidering her choice. The child departed, leaving Charlotte silently reflecting on his words as the town stretched before her. Afterward, disguised and walking through town, she recalled their initial meeting with a faint sense of fondness. Uncertainty returned as she questioned if he truly belonged in such a location. Abruptly, a small commotion broke out, drawing her notice toward an unexpected sight. Instants later, she confronted him again, startled to find him standing there once beyond. In a tight alley, Charlotte unexpectedly crossed trails with the boy again, turning the moment strained. Uncertainty followed as Makaina hurried to explain their circumstances, trying to ease the awkward meeting. Charlotte then insisted on watching his daily existence, believing it necessary to understand him further. The child questioned her actions, unconvinced by her logic and growing slightly cautious. Nervous, Charlotte struggled to clarify herself, recognizing her efforts might only trouble him. Rather, Charlotte observed carefully, trying to comprehend the situation while Makaina signaled playfully for assistance. An uncomfortable explanation followed, leaving Charlotte shocked as unexpected details were disclosed. Pressure quickly increased, and the moment turned chaotic as responses clashed shortly after. The mood settled, showing an unusual sense of familiarity developing between them. Eventually, a suggestion emerged, hinting that altering how she approached him might close the gap. Charlotte weighed the suggestion, recognizing that changing her approach might bring her nearer to him. Uncertainty followed as she struggled with the new idea, unsure how to continue. With obvious embarrassment, she compelled herself to try, her composure momentarily breaking. The instant created a strong response, changing the atmosphere between them. Motivated by the outcome, the others pushed her more, urging her to continue this new method. Charlotte regretted softly, while the boy reacted with obvious embarrassment, unsettled by the sudden change between them. After a short pause, he tried to recover composure, though the situation remained uncomfortable. Stunned, he broke down in frustration, unable to comprehend the unexpected turn of circumstances. Elsewhere, Charlotte appeared reassured, her expression brightening, despite his response. As peace slowly returned, he wondered her presence in town. Seeking answers, Makaina caused burden by revealing something inappropriate, leaving the child flustered while Charlotte watched in uncertainty. Shyness escalated as he tried to stop the circumstances while Charlotte insisted on understanding him further. A short silence followed, the pressure lingering between them in the quiet road. Stunned, he finally broke down, incapable to handle the pressure around him. Despite all, Charlotte remained determined, pressing him to clarify his plans. He disclosed his intent to collect information, leaving Charlotte and Makaina watching him closely. In a crowded market, a vendor spreads gossip about the third prince stealing a duchess, painting him as cruel nearby. Townspeople react lightly, while two women observe, uncertain about the truth behind his growing image. Nearby, taking apples and blending into local shops without drawing attention. His allies follow closely, noticing how he avoids direct inquiries and instead listens carefully to scattered facts. He realizes rumors travel fast, distorting truth. After sampling the apple, the girl reflects on its simplicity while the royal feels relieved. Shortly, the group arrives before the Adventurers Association, recognizing it as a place where details naturally gathers. He explains that visitors constantly bring news, making the association ideal for quiet inquiry. Indoors, noise and activity fill the hall as explorers share stories, surprising the girls with its vibrant atmosphere. A clerk greets them warmly, offering seating while mentioning ongoing celebrations close by from above, astonished by bottles, meals, and the lively scene unlike anything she has witnessed before. Elsewhere, the prince explains that the association connects directly to the inn as lists appear. She studies unfamiliar dishes with excitement, identifying them only from books yet eager to understand beyond. Beside her, new companion reacts with interest, while the prince observes quietly, noting their interest in all around them, wondering her intentions and considering her remaining feelings after the broken betrothal. The attendant confidently proposes expressing gratitude while hinting at a gift. In reply, the prince recognizes her assistance calmly, accepting her presence without uncertainty. Abruptly, her behavior shifts, causing him to grow uneasy as he hardships to understand the abrupt improve. Composing himself, he offers genuine appreciation, identifying her support that extends beyond his hopes. Yet, she reacts strongly, gripping his sleeve, unsettled by his manner and questioning his lack of reply. The attendant grows flustered by his remarks, struggling to maintain calm, while the prince notices her unusual response. Instance later, a local adventurer approaches energetically, greeting the royal. The visitor apologizes for the interruption and introduces a companion, closely shifting the mood of the meeting. Recognizing the name, sensing familiarity as he tries to recall where he has met it before. Shortly after, introductions continue, though pressure lingers as the maid reacts nervously to the unexpected encounter. Within the inn, careless talk circulates as adventurers mock a aristocratic girl. One visitor loudly dismisses her status, treating her as someone expressing frustration despite her supposed noble heritage. Recognizing this, the hooded girl quietly reacts, her notice drawn as the harsh words deepen the pressure, allowing the gossip to unfold while observing how companions perceive the royal household. Nearby, the adventurer continues speculating openly, showing how distorted opinions about the royal have become. The royal maintains a calm expression, brushing off concern while concealing his reaction to the rumors he just learned, soon suggesting the noblewoman might be misunderstood as rumors continue spreading among explorers, silently intending to redirect those rumors into something positive through careful guidance. Afterward, he walks ahead in pause, his steps slow as the weight of his ideas follows him through the streets. Behind him, believing he is not the individual companions allege him to be, the girl apologizes earnestly, realizing the trip failed to bring the peace he wanted. He responds steadily, yet his distant voice leaves her gripping her clothes in anxiety. Her speech trembles as she heads him, while he quietly refuses to accept matters as they are. Remorse builds within him, recognizing his misjudgment and the effects of spreading careless gossip afterward. Alone, he reflects in pause, deciding to keep his gap from her for now. At the army training grounds, soldiers practice intensely while the prince arrives, observing the disciplined setting. Striking weapons echo loudly, drawing notice as he suddenly notices a familiar figure close. Shock spreads across his face, disturbed by her unexpected presence in such a location. Attempting to remain composed, he questions her actions while pondering on his own careless tastes. Steadily, she explains her purpose, showing resolve as part of her path towards becoming queen. An uncomfortable silence forms as he turns away, while both women watch him nearby. At the practice grounds, the royal arrived quietly while a noble girl wondered his presence. Close attention allowed him to analyze their movements and focus. Instead than relying on chance, he analyzed strengths and weaknesses, forming strategies to improve battlefield results. With peace certainty, he pointed out in case, guiding her understanding more. By judging a fighter's composure and slow responses, he revealed how deliberate thinking could overcome faster rivals. While watching the duel, the prince noted flaws in one warrior's strikes, recognizing obvious movements despite his effort to close gap. Shock appeared on the girl's face as she realized his analysis matched the habits of trained troops. Pausing in thought, he admitted there were still limits in his insight. Abrupt noise broke the moment as companions approached, shifting the peace atmosphere around him. Aggressive figure arrived, forcing the royal to face an unexpected challenge. Facing chase, the prince assessed the situation, knowing retreat would be difficult as his opponent ongoing closing in. Rather of fleeing, he chose to withstand, steadying himself while entrusting others to protection. A discreet exchange followed, where his resolve startled those nearby, revealing unexpected resolve. Assurance replaced tension as he relieved them, showing familiarity with the danger nearby. Shortly after, the confrontation intensified, and he waited firm against his brother, ready for what would come next, wondering his accusations while maintaining calm under strain. With solid reasoning, He rejected the charges, pointing out the lack of evidence and exposing the flaw in the case. A blade lay between them as tension increased, signaling that words alone would no longer settle the dispute. His sibling prepared to blow, driven by anger and intent on enforcing his decision. Unshaken, the prince responded easily, stopping the attack and proving the gap in their skills. The siblings' anger sharpened as he accused the royal of cowardice, while the prince avoided straightforward conflict without denying the pressure. A discreet reaction ensued, masking irritation as pressure grew around him. Rather than retreating, he proposed a condition, changing the situation into a controlled conversation. With a firm gaze, he chose a wooden blade, accepting the challenge under his own conditions. Assurance spread among the onlookers, yet the royal remained calm, prepared to face the result. A taunting tone filled the air as both sides exchanged hostile intent, neither willing to yield position. They faced each other with practiced swords, tension circulating among the watching troops. Abruptly, the brother launched forward, striking with power and determination to overwhelm his enemy. The royal raised his blade just in time, barely enduring the slow blow pressing against him. Shouts rose as strain increased, yet despite the assault the prince held solid, refusing to fall. Strikes rained down rapidly as the prince endured an onslaught, deflecting each strike with precise rhythm. Perspiration formed as pressure built, forcing him into a guarded stance while observers grew worried. Notice shifted when the blade showed signs of damage, raising doubt about its term. Close observation revealed a coating on the blade, hinting at a hidden tactic behind his guard. As he redirected every blow to the same spot, slowly turning the fight. Holding his defense, the prince endured each impact, concealing his intent behind steady motions. Their swords clashed violently as his rival pushed harder, unaware of the hidden control shaping each exchange. Surprise spread among the onlookers, incapable to grasp the purpose behind his continued guard. Abrupt break followed as the practiced sword snapped, leaving him momentarily vulnerable. Uncertainty deepened, yet beneath the outcome, his plan quietly reached success. The royal knelt after the clash, wondering the accusation while maintaining composure despite the strain around him. Elsewhere, his brother regained confidence, forming new plan as tension ongoing to build. Shortly after, he declared a new duel, forcing the royal into another unavoidable challenge. Aristocratic challenges the dark-haired prince to a public fight, aiming to force admission and restore his own weighting. The royal steps forward calmly, showing no uncertainty despite the pressure, and the watching troops around him. The challenger continues pressing his claims, attempting to corner the royal with reasoning. A short pause reveals the prince's discreet tension as he considers the dangers. He accepts the fight, knowing refusal would worsen attention, despite having nothing to benefit, recognizing the situation has turned against him as strain builds around the fight. The royal sets a condition while accepting, changing control and forcing the noble to listen despite his distress. He demands Charlotte's freedom if victorious, turning the duel into an issue of justice rather than honor. Notice shifts to the hidden key, revealing the royal's awareness of the restraint's true direction. Charlotte stands bound, exposing the burden behind the royal's demand. The aristocratic realizes the collar cannot be removed easily and sees bargaining through the fight as his only route forward. The royal reveals the key in his possession, boldly exposing the noble's lack of direction, making it definite the noble has minimal chance to reclaim control if he loses. Days is set, giving both sides a short period to prepare for the inevitable challenge. Pause follows as tension settles, leaving the result uncertain before the fight begins. A notice is given across the castle walls, urging readiness as the upcoming duel draws nearer. Indoors the mansion, a call reaches Mechina, pulling notice toward an unexpected summons. Charlotte hears the news and considers speaking straight, sensing something strange behind the summons. Mechina responds, observing Charlotte's unease and the pressure in her response. Wondering whether the royal intends to lose deliberately for her benefit, Charlotte hardships to understand the prince's actions. Observing his strange decisions and the dangers he continues to take, Mechina realizes all is being done for Prince Lear, though the logic still feels excessive. The facts becomes clear as the prince lowers his personal reputation to raise Leor's standing before companions. His strategy also frames Charlotte as a victim, shaping how the event will be witnessed. Through this, the troops are led to shift their support toward Royal Leor. Mechina reflects on the royal's role, realizing he has continually remained in the background to support Royal Leor. His history reveals a child burdened by infamy, enduring loneliness to strengthen the royal family's standing. Charlotte hardships to accept his sacrifice, stunned by the weight of his decisions. Recollections of his family show the origin of his resolve and quiet loyalty. Concludes that he bears every weight willingly, placing his household above all else. She inquires whether the royal truly believes sacrificing himself as a villain is the best answer. Charlotte hears, acknowledging the importance of household, yet sensing something unresolved beneath that logic. Uncertainty surfaces as she hardships to accept that there is no other route for him. Doubt lingers, leaving her conflicted about his decisions and plans. Despite all, a faint hope appears as she reflects on unexpected changes around him. Charlotte shows a slight smile, holding on to belief that the prince's path might still improve. She reaches at his room with Makaina, doubt returning as they prepare to face him straight. The royal apologizes, acknowledging the trouble he has caused and the weight placed on companions. Makaina reacts with shock while the situation remains strained despite small improvement. Charlotte steels herself, recognizing she must act now, resolved to prevent him from losing the fight. The royal orders both girls to prepare, changing the situation with sudden haste. He leaves before explaining, stating remaining matters while they hardship to understand his aim. Decisive back briefly, he reveals his strategy to meet Charlotte's parents, deepening the uncertainty. Surprise spreads as realization sets in, and Charlotte is rushed to prepare for an unforeseen betrothal. A coach arrives at the manor as the prince prepares for a formal meeting. Nearby, a cheerful girl reacts kindly. Sensing the importance of the instant, indoors, he sits across from two ladies, maintaining calm while acknowledging an established connection. Despite his peace image, tension shows as companions quietly notice the effort behind his manner. Eventually they arrive, stepping into the residence where hopes and ties begin to take shape. Seated in the drawing room, the prince listens steadily while the discussion about the visit's goals unfolds. Yet his ideas remain focused on care, gossip, and explaining himself properly. Closely, he reflects on prior relations and reveals another reason behind his presence. Abruptly, attention shifts as someone addresses him officially, drawing quiet reactions from the others close. At final, the duke appears, acknowledging the lateness while the prince maintains composure and courtesy. The lord laughs loudly, brushing aside ceremony while asserting a relaxed approach to their encounter. His stare sharpens as he notes the prince's closeness with his daughter, causing brief pressure. Shortly, the mood softens when past moments are remembered, revealing a connection formed during quieter days. Gradually, the facts behind their relationship becomes clearer, astonishing those who had not known. In the close, a private insight is emphasized, hinting at a matter meant to remain secret. A discreet tension lingers as the royal steadies himself, aware that expectations are changing around him. With courage, he declares his purpose, officially offering himself as Charlotte's fiancé. The lord listens closely, already informed about latest events, pressing further beneath the appearance. Inside the situation, the prince acknowledges that this encounter holds deeper intentions beyond politeness. At final, he reveals his true goal, requesting to meet a figure tied to hidden plans. The royal confirms the existence of a jeweler crafting magical bands, his attention sharpening as the topic turns grave. Those bands are revealed as vessels of mana, marking mankind's first controlled step into the domain of power. A famed court artisan once shaped such power, leaving knowledge behind to a student. News emerge of their return, with nobles silently negotiating to restore the workshop's guidance. He readies himself to enter those developing negotiations. The royal formally requests authority to handle the negotiations, offering himself before the noble with steady courage, stressing the value of the jeweler's talent and its role in preparing for future dispute. The aristocratic responds cautiously, asserting control over the issue and questioning the prince's plans. Uncertainty surfaces as trust is denied, placing the royal under direct inspection. Pressure rises when Charlotte intervenes, while the noble shifts notice to the prince's capable allies. The aristocratic recalls entrusting his daughter to the royal household, believing in their power and her rare gift. That faith was broken once, casting a doubt over the present discussion and hardening his position. The royal listens in pause, aware of the doubt directed towards him. Aristocratic reflects on loyalty, weighing history betrayal against present duty. Charlotte's trust remains firm, prompting the aristocratic to demand the prince's reply. The royal admits his position and reputation make faith difficult, yet he remains determined to prove his value. When pressed, he refuses to yield, revealing discreet assurance beneath the pressure. He produces an unusual ring, placing it forward as a planned action. The aristocratic reacts in shock, recognizing the artifact's significance to the royal household. As uncertainty spreads among the others, the aristocratic demands to know the prince's true purpose, offering it as a powerful relic while inviting judgment without uncertainty. The aristocratic studies him closely, weighing his sincerity against the danger of deception and recalling his daughter's faith. After close consideration, approval is given, though the atmosphere remains strained. The aristocratic takes responsibility for the band, asserting control over its care, Unshaken, the royal hints at hidden preparations, proving his gestures were part of a larger strategy. The royal confidently accepts control, positioning himself to lead negotiations with the legendary artisan. Alfred Lelleville, the younger prince, is assigned by the Lord to act as a negotiator under royal control. He enters the manor and faces the Duke, maintaining calm despite the tense atmosphere and careful inspection. The Lord tests Alfred's resolve, then recognizes his ability and entrusts Charlotte's care to him. Alfred accepts the duty steadily, having already anticipated the circumstances. The Lord recognizes Alfred's insight and concludes he is deserving of royal faith. Arrangements continue as Alfred plans to begin talks soon, prompting the Duke to invite him to stay there. Appreciation is shown as Alfred accepts the offer, identifying the advantage of avoiding other royal problems. Indoors, the estate arrangements are made with Charlotte close. While Alfred is assigned a guest space, uncertainty lingers in Alfred's mind, sensing doubt despite the calm setting. Elsewhere, Charlotte is drawn into lively gathering, unaware of the quiet pressure building around them. Charlotte spends the night cheerfully with Makaina while plans are set for leaving the next dawn. Makaina's teasing nature becomes definite, though her sincerity remains clear beneath it. From a gap, Alfred observes quietly, trusting her skill. Despite lingering concern over Charlotte's protection, recollections of past incidents cause anxiety, making him wary of unexpected burden. Darkness falls over the estate, an abrupt call for Charlotte breaks the peace atmosphere. Charlotte eagerly prepares for the darkness, embracing the tradition while attempting to meet expectations despite her uncertainty. She admits her absence of close friendships, yet expresses real happiness to share this instant. Makaina rapidly sets boundaries, reminding her of the morning departure and keeping the gathering short. The atmosphere shifts as they attempt to continue, though uncertainty begins to appearance. Uncertainty takes over Charlotte, leaving her unsure of how to maintain the circumstances. Interest arises as Charlotte asks about Makaina's connection to Alfred, sensing closeness in her conduct. Makaina reacts with minor unease, attempting to downplay the issue while avoiding a direct account. A pause follows as she hardships to organize her thoughts, choosing a modest way to clarify. She explains that Alfred was the person who discovered her, beginning their lasting connection. Pieces of her past surface, showing slight memories tied to that moment of rescue. A youngster lies weak on the position, surrounded by filth, driven by hunger and fatigue. Time passes in constant hardship as survival depends on stealing. Yet the desire to live never fades. One error leads to capture, and cruel punishment follows from those who show no kindness. Despite the pain, the child reflects on those instances without resentment, accepting the harsh truth. That decisive point approaches, marking the instant when everything begins to improve. Alfred reaches and interrupts the scene, providing to buy the starving youngster as if she were merchandise. Money is handed over without hesitation, and the youngster is taken away from that harsh location. Gossip spread, painting Alfred as someone with unusual habits and questionable hobbies. Despite the rumors, his actions align with what companions expect from his unpredictable manner. Under his care, the youngster is given food, housing, and eventually a role, beginning a new existence, revealing how he ignored criticism while regarding her as someone he decided to protect. Her existence changes completely, gaining dignity and comfort within the palace after a harsh history. The circumstances reminds her of Charlotte's struggles, attracting a quiet comparison between their situations. She reflects on Alfred's gestures, recognizing his habit to bear burdens while appearing as a monster. The atmosphere shifts anew as attention turns back to Charlotte, bringing the conversation into a lighter tone. Makaina presses Charlotte for her true thoughts about Alfred, shifting the voice into a more personal issue. She frames the betrothal as more than politics, wondering Charlotte's true feelings towards him. Charlotte hesitates, acknowledging several circumstances without reaching a definite answer. Makaina probes personal, suggesting the chance that Charlotte may see Alfred as more than an obligation. Caught off defense, Charlotte realizes she has never truly weighed him in that method. Charlotte denies the suggestion, flustered as Makaina casually teases her view on Alfred. She explains her attention has always been obligation, viewing romance as distant from her situations. Makaina reflects that Alfred also lacks worry for political union, reinforcing Charlotte's logic. The notion shifts suddenly, suggesting Alfred may have the chance to experience genuine affection. Charlotte is left shocked, realizing the chance that Alfred may already care for person. Makaina declines to let the topic disappear, pressing Charlotte to answer the question directly. Charlotte hesitates yet allows the instant to continue, torn between obligation and interest. The darkness appears to settle, but tension silently lingers beneath their gestures. Rest is resisted as frustration builds, leaving Charlotte incapable to find pause. Her speech suddenly breaks the pause, demanding to know who Alfred genuinely cares for. A discreet mansion rests under the night heavens as a girl lies asleep, unaware of circumstances about to unfold. Indoors, observing her turn while a maid watches silently from the entrance. The attendant studies him through the glass, identifying his presence and sensing a shift in situations. Afterward, a noble reports about a reclusive artisan, warning that meeting her may bring problems. The royal calmly considers the circumstances, deciding to proceed with his own guard. He meets an aristocratic father, assuring him his daughter's protection and discussing the jeweler's situation steadily. A minor cough interrupts the moment, yet he maintains calm while expressing willingness to guard her personally. The parent reflects on his daughter's loneliness, feeling reassured that she may gain a trustworthy ally. Darkness deepens outside as both consider timing, the prince watching quietly while the duke weighs the choice. Insight the father's feelings while awaiting his final decision. And nervous silence forms as the prince struggles to respond. Sensing the parent's deep attachment to his child, interest grows when the father inquires his resolve, wondering why he would act against the kingdom's hopes. Waiting by the window, the prince reveals his disregard toward the kingdom's future. A peace expression follows as he affirms his position, showing no hesitation in his choice. Afterward, judging his appearance while he remains unmoved, carrying on without worry. Aristocratic youth defends Alfred violently, silencing whispers while pulling the prince away from the gathering. Recollections surface of a brother admired for warmth, someone who accepted others without decision. In the history, that bond formed quietly, built on faith rather than status or look, clenching his hand. The royal admits he only values those narrow to him, rejecting wider duty. Confronting the duke, he remains firm, deciding to defend Charlotte before everyone else. The royal admits his limits openly, while the parent observes that such thinking cannot suit someone of royal obligation. Tea is served as the atmosphere changes, signaling a more private direction in their talk. With a soft smile, the father asks about his child, catching the prince slightly off defense. He responds stiffly, framing the relationship as solely political, avoiding any personal affection. Humor crosses the father's face as he jokes about defying the ruling household. The parent questions his emotions, noting his honesty and concern for the girl, prompting the royal to reflect. He recalls her uncomfortable dancing, admitting her lack of talent while the father listens nearby. Recollections shift to his youth, where his brother's fiancé tried during practice, creating small problems. Afterward, he remembers seeing her at events but never speaking. Keeping his gap, abrupt presence draws his attention, causing him to respond sharply as the moment turns strained. She practices steps alone, her movements clumsy as she hardships to keep balance in the grand chamber. She slips and falls heavily, leaving marks on her skin while the prince watches in surprise. Even as night arrives, she continues practice without rest, pushing herself beyond weaknesses. Repeated mistakes leave her exhausted and hurt, yet she rises again despite the injury. Resolve drives her forward, refusing to give up even when her attempts seem futile. Uncertainty fills the prince's expression as he inquires her relentless effort despite repeated mistake. Observing her rise again after every fall, he becomes incapable to look away from her resolve. Her determination glows brightly, awakening something inside him that he cannot dismiss. Remembering that night, he understands that moment caused him to move forward and intervene. The parent understands, seeing that the prince's worry for her began long before this encounter. Royal accepts responsibility, watching over the resting girls. As their quiet darkness continues, at Mount Etoile, a distant mountain stands silent, surrounded by thick forest and hidden trails. A youthful noble leads a small party through the woods, searching for a legendary artisan said to live beyond. Worries rise as rumors of monsters and sealed power spread, making the journey uncertain and perilous. A resolved girl refuses to stay behind, choosing to follow despite the dangers nearby. As they action forward, her courage strengthens, driven by obligation. The youthful noble agrees calmly, confident he can handle beasts alone while allowing the others to trail. Shortly after, the group moves with enthusiasm, though Makaina hesitates, sensing the danger behind their enthusiasm. Old knowledge reveals a terrifying creature called Ragman, immune to normal magic and born from a dark spell. Closely, he activates a search ability, scanning the large area while maintaining distance from the party. Instants later, weighing if to stand and battle or withdraw. He explains the band's ability, revealing devices that scan surroundings and prepare hidden snares. Companions react with confusion, disturbed by his unusual equipment and techniques. Abruptly, his detection senses something nearby, prompting a quick warning as a massive monster appears. Identifying the threat, he chooses to retreat cautiously, noting its new form and dangerous manner. Before retreat, the creature activates a glowing center, unleashing power and catching the group off defense. When the attack bursts forth, he charges ahead and protects the girl, absorbing the impact while dragging her back. Using centered reinforcement, he boosts his limbs and escapes quickly, realizing the golem can detect them immediately. Comfort appears as she confirms she is unharmed, supported by his quick defense. Afterward, she holds onto him, briefly overwhelmed despite the continuing danger. Yet, the creature advances anew, forcing him to prepare a defense while ordering companions to protect her. He raises a shield to block the incoming blow, realizing the golem's intelligence exceeds hopes. While companions worry, he moves ahead alone, attracting the creature's focus away from the party. Closing the gap, he observes its core and identifies inserted rings powering its motions. Inspection reveals multiple abilities, including detection, greater force, and ranged fire blasts. Inside the threat, he braces himself as the golem launches a strong strike towards him. He blocks the golem's blow with a reinforced barrier, stopping its slow strike mid-attack. Seizing the instant, he channels power into his arm and counters with a centered punch. The impact destroys the golem's body, splitting it apart before it can reform. Afterward, he reflects steadily. Noting his readiness allowed him to return safely to the party. And witness arrives, surprised to see the strong construct completely destroyed so rapidly. After the fight, he meets a lone woman and politely asks if she is the royal artisan. Introducing himself as a royal, he explains their journey, though his visit seems unforeseen. She reveals annoyance, noting her golem was destroyed, though she hears to his regret, despite reluctance. She permits them to follow, unable to disregard his unexpected arrival. Shortly, they arrive at her quiet hut, where she permits them to enter and rest carefully. Indoors the cabin, he observes the cluttered room, unsure where to settle in the cramped seating. The woman questions his purpose, watching him nearby while offering little welcome. She rapidly guesses his intent involves restoring her to the royal studio. In reply, his companion presents an official request confirming their mission and control. After reviewing the letter, she considers it carefully, her manner shifting as she understands the circumstances. After reading the summons, she notes the loss but begins to reassess him despite earlier suspicions. Steadily, she agrees to listen, allowing him to clarify the circumstances in full. Watching his strength, she recognizes he is far from a normal royal. He recounts history events, including a broken betrothal and the need for power against his sibling. With the tale revealed, he officially asks for her assistance, awaiting her decision closely. She refuses the invitation of support, showing minimal interest in comfort or royal support. Without more explanation, she instructs them to trail and leaves the hut. The party travels through the forest, guided personal into the hills under her lead. He grows cautious, wondering her direction while observing the devices she carries. They arrive before a vast cave where she abruptly halts, signaling something ahead demands notice. Indoors the cave, the group pauses, confused by her abrupt actions and unclear plans. They step personal and discover a vast chamber filled with glowing crystals embedded in the rock. He observes the resources closely, recognizing precious stones used for crafting magical devices. Nearby, strange objects and markers suggest the location holds more than simple materials. Elsewhere, she remains at ease, casually spending days there, treating the cave as a personal refuge. The party examines the rare stones, confused why such valuable materials remain untouched. With a slight smile, she prepares to clarify, noticing their growing interest. Steadily, she reveals the truth, stating the gems were once living humans. Surprise spreads among them as they hardship to grasp the meaning behind her remarks. Recalling the history, she reflects on her time as a royal artisan and the events long earlier. She recalls pouring from a cliff during a battle, incapable to move as death neared. At that instant, a ring granted her power, awakening a hidden strength within. A mighty warrior appeared and struck down the cursed beast with overwhelming power. Curiously, that meeting marked her first encounter with the jeweler who saved her existence. Afterwards, she was healed and taken in, gaining power while witnessing the monster's loss. She recalls asking Netos about her work, leading to a bond formed through common skill and isolation. Observing Neto's work, she realizes the gap between them, identifying a level of skill she could not reach. Resolved to improve, she stays by Netos nearby, learning while building both talent. As they create bands, study methods, and hunt for resources together. Though those days felt lasting, she silently admits she tried not to dwell on what would trail. She reflects on death, realizing their time together was limited despite common research and quiet instance. Storm fell as he searched the cave, concerned because she had not returned home that night. A slight glow led him personal, where he found Netos lying unconscious beside a strange crystal. Surprise tightened his expression as he rushed forward and lifted her, checking for any mark of harm. Her hand twitched slightly, knowledge returning as confusion filled her thoughts. She steadied herself, recognizing the truth while he held her narrow concern gradually easing, disclosed a fatal disease within her bloodline, gradually turning her body to stone with no possible treatment. A recollection surfaced of her parent whose body hardened entirely before shattering, terror mixed with quiet approval as she imagined the same future. He rejected that outcome, demanding they find assistance even if it required requesting the king's aid. Crying fell as she admitted her resolve to leave behind evidence of her presence. He carried Netos back through the storm, helplessly observing as her body slowly hardened while she centered on crafting. Indoors the hut, she devoted every remaining moment to forging a single band. Time passed uncertainly, yet she continued working with discreet courage while he remained. Uncertainty weighed on him as he questioned his value, unable to match her dedication or genius. Days slipped away unnoticed until her work was finally finished, marking the end of her long attempt. The completed ring shimmered in his hand, its shine reflecting the existence she had poured into it. She explained steadily that the crystal within came from her parent. With a soft expression, Netos offered the band to him, trusting him to carry what she created. Her power faded further, yet she remained satisfied knowing her work would not be left untouched. He looked at her with firm resolve, recognizing she was no longer just person to protect. She requested that he hold the ring, although he believed himself undeserving of receiving it. Reception strength, Netos made one final plea, asking him to use her skin. He waited in silence as she thanked him, her existence nearing its close while he could only watch. Days passed and her story faded into the history, remembered only as a distant story. Even so, shaping his ideas as he came to understand the brief brilliance of human existence. Time later, having passed his studio on and withdrawn from his work, he admitted his weaknesses, believing himself unworthy of her legacy and incapable to stand as a true artisan. Watching her resolve, he realized she had already chosen her route, leaving no room for uncertainty. With no talent or reason intense enough to change her mind, he found himself helpless. Even so, resolve increased within him, refusing to abandon her despite all arguing that Eileen needed to forge the ring if she sincerely intended to respect Netos. Despite the strain, Eileen refused, fearing failure and the permanent loss that would follow any error. Decisive away, she tried to gap herself, believing the duty did not belong to her. Uncertainty consumed her as she questioned her personal worth, convinced she had no right to handle something so valuable. The companion stood firm, declaring that only she could carry out Netos's final request. She recalled Eileen of the years' time spent thinking about Netos. Uncertainty remained, yet the question remained why Netos entrusted her with something so valuable. Recollections surfaced of their days together, revealing a bond built through endless presence. She explained that even in end, Netos's desire could withstand through what was left behind. At final, Eileen grasped that carrying her inheritance forward now rested in her hands, assuring Eileen that she alone could bear this responsibility with nobody else capable. Eileen admitted her terror, knowing mistake would mean losing all tied to Netos, and arm extended toward her, encouraging her to quit fleeing and confront what waited ahead. Though unsure, she was recalled that the choice now rested with her solitary, and she needed an argument to stand. With discreet resolve, she accepted her weaknesses, yet prepared to action forward despite them. She examined the crystal in silence, recognizing she still held the ability to act despite her suspicions. Courage settled within her as she chose to cooperate, stepping forward with fresh determination alongside the companions. Eileen relieved the group and decided to return to the castle, maintaining control after the tense meeting. She firmly announced her loyalty, astonishing the others with her courage. During the coach ride, reassured the situation involving the ring had been decided for now. He reasoned on his lack of preparation, recognizing the risks of acting without proper insight. Eileen regretted for her sudden gestures, while Charlotte acknowledged his own limits and care her decisively, forcing Charlotte to respond quickly as pressure rose inside the coach. The attendant stepped out to investigate, leaving Charlotte inside while doubt spread about the circumstances. Eileen sensed something strange, drawing notice to Makaina as Charlotte realized a critical fact. Instance later, only the two remained in a private room, changing the atmosphere into something more controlled yet nervous. Facing each other, Charlotte grew uneasy, while Eileen tried to firm the situation and peace him. Eileen observed Charlotte avoiding her gaze and pressed him, sensing deception despite his weak reply, closing the gap, leaving no chance for retreat as his composure started to crack. Her closeness overwhelmed him, leaving him deeply conscious of her proximity while he struggled to answer clearly. Distress grew as she demanded a clear response, questioning his inability to face her straight. Under strain, revealing his inexperience and failure to handle the situation steadily. Eileen admitted the nearness affected her, growing conscious of being solitary with Charlotte in a confined seating. Shyness surfaced as she attempted to clarify her intentions, while Charlotte struggled to respond without losing calm. Their heads drew dangerously narrow, revealed his honest view of her. The instant shattered when the entry burst open, interrupting the pressure and startling them both. Caught off defense, they quickly denied anything strange while the maid remained suspicious of the sight. The coach suddenly halted as masked figures surrounded it, trapping everyone within a tightening ring. Eileen warned Charlotte of the threat, while he remained composed, facing the danger without uncertainty. A cloaked attacker advanced and struck quickly, forcing Charlotte into immediate response. Before the punch could land, Eileen intervened, delivering a precise strike that repelled the attacker. The assailant collapsed from the impact, leaving both of them briefly stunned by the sudden development. Recognizing the attackers were not foes but agents working under Char's control, Woman Attendant explained the group known as Shadows, detailing their role in covert missions under his orders. Insight dawned as Eileen recognized their leader among the masked figures around them. The confusion cleared, and she admitted her mistake while the operatives confirmed their support to Char. They disclosed their true reason, informing him about the emergence of an unknown fragment. Charlotte observed as the cloaked agents began their account, outlining the ongoing situation with haste. Nearby, fallen knights lay scattered while an unusual disturbance rose deeper within the woods. The soldier captain tried to contain the danger, explaining that without the cross ring, troops formed a defensive formation, bracing themselves despite the growing strain. A huge shadow appeared overhead, signaling the overwhelming power they were about to face. Monster revealed itself, towering above the combat and spreading fear among the troops below. Despite suspicions about royal assistance, the captain insisted on holding their ground and continuing the battle. The monster's strike struck, sending knights flying and breaking their ranks immediately. Even as losses rose, the commander urged resistance, knowing retreat would endanger the realm. Fire erupted across the field, engulfing troops as the fragment's power overwhelmed their guards. The commander witnessed the monster's overwhelming strength. Realizing his troops had been pushed to the brink of defeat, pouring to the ground, he accepted the hopeless situation as defeat seemed coming. Abruptly, a powerful blow descended from above, interrupting the creature's attack. Seizing the instant, the captain ordered the final knights to refuge and preserve what was left. Amid the confusion, Charlotte stepped forward calmly, declaring his aim to confront the fragment solitary. Alfred Louville, the younger prince, moves alone across a ruined battlefield, his presence quiet yet focused. As the only heir bearing the cross ring, he studies the circumstances closely. He organizes the refuge, ensuring the wounded are secured while questioning the sudden visit of unknown black-clad people. Support arrive, acknowledging his effort, and taking direction as Alfred steps back from orders. With peace resolve, he activates the band, releasing controlled power that reshapes the combat. Aristocratic girl activates the cross ring, channeling high-level power to summon a spirit into her skin. The entity Awilda manifests above Alfred, releasing overwhelming power as he faces it without refuge. Awilda attacks fiercely, clashing against the enemy while troops observe the unexpected power in action. Alfred stands calm within the confusion, holding the cross ring as enthusiasm gathers around him. His darkest mana forms a spirit robe, revealing managed strength drawn from the rare sixth attribute. Air fierce force swirls forward as troops react in alarm, sensing threat closing in on. Alfred's shots descend in overwhelming waves, yet Alfred stands firm, preparing to intercept the incoming strike. He moves quickly through the onslaught, cutting and deflecting with exact. His gestures shield the knights, redirecting loose bullets away from them while maintaining control of the combat. Spectators begin to question his reputation, recognizing his skill and ability far exceed what they believed. A cloaked figure rapidly invokes multiple magical bindings, unleashing fire, water, stone. Bindings of combined forces surge forward, forming a massive golem meant to restrain and crush him. Alfred responds immediately, reception energy and releasing a concentrated strike aimed at the center. The blow shatters the creature, breaking its body and dispersing the power that sustained it. The combat falls still as soldiers watch, recognizing the tremendous precision and power behind his blow. As the battle concludes, Alfred drops his arm, confirming the threat has been completely eliminated. News reveal he often eliminates pieces before others arrive, leaving little evidence behind. Talk rises over his unusual ability to control several spirits, something considered unachievable. Notice turns to Alfred, noting the hidden weight he carries despite his composed manner. Troops quietly reassess him, recognizing the prince's strength had years been underestimated. Alfred knows that negotiations have concluded and arrangements for equipment and power rings will continue. While companions celebrate the recovery of the legendary artisan, Alfred remains unimpressed and dismisses their enthusiasm. Pressure rises as a knight footsteps forward, accusing someone of causing the earlier threat. The fault shifts toward a youthful girl who stands confused under the sudden charge. The soldiers continue pressing duty onto her, recalling the incident that nearly led to tragedy. Soldiers blame the girl for defeated comrades, accusing her of causing their losses and rejecting her gestures. One soldier charges forward in anger, attempting to blow her down without uncertainty. Alfred footsteps in instantly, taking the punch and shielding her while remaining composed despite the harm. He heads the knights coldly, exposing their failure and lack of worth as troops. With solid authority, he rebukes them, reminding them of their mistake and the truth they refuse to face. Alfred silences the soldiers, ordering them back to their duties while pointing out the defeated they faltered to protect. He walks away from the site, leaving the soldiers behind as the pressure gradually fades, pondering on the gap between her power and the harsh reality of fight. Alfred recognizes their pride and errors, explaining why they turn their blame towards her. As storm falls, she confesses her weakness, while Alfred accepts the position compelled upon him. In the storm, Alfred insists nothing troubles him, yet his strained look reveals the burden he carries. Charlotte inquiries him, unable to accept his distant response as the facts. He studies her crying face, noticing the isolation she cannot hide despite her calm. Alfred softly leads her onward, choosing to abandon the battlefield behind them. Holding her hand, he walks towards the carriage, walking forward under the falling storm.